Hi everyone, this is Sushant. Welcome to our today's session. So guys, in this session we are going to learn about how to use try and until successful scope in Mulesoft. Okay, so before directly going to start with the POCs or practically use cases, first we will understand what is try scope, what is until successful scope. So after covering some theoretical part, we will jump on to the POC part and try to cover some use cases. So guys, let's get started with our first topic, which is what is try scope basically. So guys, this try scope, based on the definition, this try scope enables you to handle errors that may occur while attempting to execute any of the components inside the try scope. Okay, so guys, this is the try scope. You can see that's how it looks like, and you can see a request component inside it. Okay, so guys, what is try scope? What it is saying based on the definition, let's say you want to call any third party system, any server you want to call and fetch the responses from there. So in that case, let's say, so we also need to consider some negative scenarios. Let's say, because it doesn't happen that every time those calls will be successful. What if any error occurs? What if any connection error occurs? Okay, any bad request error occurs? So how you will handle those errors basically? So guys, there comes the try scope. Okay, so let's say if anything fails while calling that third party system or any server to fetch some response from there. So let's say if that request fails because of some connectivity issues or any other reason. So in that case, how you want to handle those errors? Okay, so there comes the try scope. So we guys, with the help of try scope, so let's say if this request fails calling that system. Okay, so in this error handling section of this try scope, you can specify that how you want to handle those errors. Like if a bad request occurs, what you want to do? You want to stop your application, okay, or you want to proceed, okay, or you want to log something. So all those things will be handled under this error handling part. Okay, you can specify your error handling here basically. Okay guys, so guys, that was the basic what I can say definition of try scope. Let's move on to the next part, variable propagation in try scope, guys. So how the variable is going to behave when a try scope will be executed. Okay, so based on the definition, it is written that every payload modification or variable addition, modification or removal is propagated through the rest of the execution. Okay, this propagation include modifications that take place inside the error handler. So guys, let's say you have a variable initialized before calling this try scope, and let's say you have modified that same variable here, and let's say any error occurs and it propagated to this owner propagate part, and it changed the value of that variable. So that variable changed to a value, the value of a variable that has been changed here. Okay, so once this try scope will complete, that you will get a modified value of that variable basically. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so now we're going to cover one POC in Anypoiny Studio. There you will get some more clarity of what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, so guys, let's jump onto the Anypoiny Studio and see how it works. Because these are the four use cases I have designed. Two of them are related to the try scope, and the another two are related to the until successful scope. So because we have covered the theoretical part of try scope, so we will cover these initial two use cases of try scope. Okay guys, so you can see I have placed one listener here, specified an endpoint name as UC1, and the listener configuration I have specified as HTTP. Okay, so you can use any host. Port is 8081. Okay, and I'm calling one server which is nothing but different flow. Okay, which is this one. So I'm calling it from here, from this try scope. Okay, so I will show you, like, if this request fails or if this request is successful, how try scope will behave basically. So okay, so with the help of this use case, this flow, I will show you how it works, guys. Okay, so let me deploy this application and show you. So guys, as you can see, the application has been deployed successfully. So we are going to trigger this first flow where I have initialized this try scope and it did some error handling in that. So guys, these are the on error propagate, okay, and this is on error continue. Okay, so I will trigger this request and try to generate these both errors and show you how it works, guys. So let me trigger it from the Postman. Okay, if I trigger this flow now, so you can see, guys, we have got this variable test as test variable. So if I click on next, you can see it has triggered this flow. Okay, we got the payload and then the flow has completed successfully. Okay, we have logged this values. Okay, so now, guys, I'm trying to generate one error. Okay, that error is nothing but a timeout. Okay, and we will see how it will work. Okay, so I will set some response timeout in the configuration. So after that response timeout, it will fail. Okay, so we will wait for this much time. Okay, so if it didn't get any response, it will fail basically. Okay, so let me click OK and let me deploy this application again and show you how it works. Okay, so as our application has been deployed, okay, let me trigger this flow. Okay, I have triggered this flow. Okay, we will go to the next flow. Now we will wait for 3 seconds. Okay, and if in 3 seconds if it didn't provided any response to this request, so guys, it will throw an error. And now we will see if it throws an error how try scope will work, because try scope is nothing but a kind of try catch. So first it will try hitting that request. If it got a response, that's fine, it will move to the next component. If it didn't got the response, then how it will handle those errors. Okay, so that part we are going to cover now. So as if I click on next, so guys, you can see it has throws timeout exceeded error. Okay, because it exceeded that time we have specified there in the response time. So let's see how it will handle these errors. So here comes the try scope. Okay, I think I didn't put any debugger point here. Let me put the debugger point and show you how it behaves. Okay, so let me trigger this flow again, guys. Okay, I go to the next flow. I think 3 seconds are done. Let me click next. Okay, it throws the error timeout exceeded. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so guys, you can see the request which failed. Okay, it has been moved to the on error continue part. Okay, so because in on error propagate we only specified error type as connectivity, but this time we got this timeout exceeded error, which is HTTP timeout. So in on error continue we have specified error type as any. So if any kind of error occurs, it will move to the on error continue part. Okay, so if any request fails uh, except that HTTP connectivity error, so it will move to this on error continue. So in on error continue, guys, what we are doing, we are logging this message. If I click next, again we are changing the value of this variable. So previous value of the same variable was test variable. Okay, now the value of this variable is test variable any. So guys, from here you will understand the concept of variable propagation. What will be the value of this variable once this flow will be completed? Okay, so here comes the concept of variable propagation, guys. Okay, so guys, if I click next, let's see the value of this variable. This value of variable has been modified or not, we will see. Okay, so guys, let's see. Okay guys, so you can see the value of variable has been modified successfully. So guys, that's how this try scope works. So if we got an error here in the request component, okay, once we got that error, it moved that uh, error to the on error continue part to handle that error basically. So based on whatever error type you will specify, it will move to that flow. Okay, so it basically depends what kind of scenarios, what kind of use cases you have. You can specify your own error handling techniques. Okay, so if I resume, okay, so our flow is completed successfully. So because it was on error continue, so it will behave like a success request. Okay, so it will move to the next component. Okay, and give us 200 guys. Guys, that was the like a basic example of this try catch, how the try catch works. Okay, uh, now let's say we need to raise a connectivity issue. Okay, so how we can do that? Okay, so I will change some configurations here in the request component and try to generate this HTTP connectivity error. So previously this was 8081. This port was 8081, so I changed it to 8082. So this port is not, I have not configured this port in my local, so it will not able to hit this port. Okay, and as a result it will give connectivity issues. So I will click on OK. I will deploy my application. Okay, I will save it and then deploy it. So guys, our application has been deployed. Let me trigger this flow. Okay, so I have triggered this flow. So you can see we are going to call that third party system, but because we have configured port as 8082 and there is no any request or listener configured as 8082, so it will not able to find that host and port, so it will give connectivity issue. So let me show you. Okay guys, you can see we got connectivity issue, and because it's a connectivity issue and we have configured in honor propagate as connectivity issue. Okay, so it will go to this on error propagate, this flow. Okay, so that's how this try scope works. First try, it will try the calling that system with the help of this request component, but if it fails, then you can handle those errors in this try scope error handling part by specifying what kind of error you want to handle and how you want to handle based on the different scenarios, different use cases. So I have configured here as honor propagate and error as connectivity, and same error we got here. Okay, so it will jump to this flow, this honor propagate scope. Okay, so you can see, so if I click next, it has logged something here. Okay, connectivity issue message, it has logged simply. And now we will understand the concept of variable propagation. So initially before hitting this flow, the value of variable was test variable. Now after completing this flow, we will see what is the value of this variable. But guys, because it's on propagate, let's see how it will work. Okay, so it has moved to the higher level flow. Because it's on propagate, it will not go to the next flow, it will raise error to the next level. Okay, but guys, you can see a concept of variable propagation. Based on that, this value of this variable has changed. Okay, previously this value of test variable was test variable, now it has changed to test variable connectivity. So that's how this variable propagation concept works guys in this try scope. Okay, so because it's on propagate, it will move those error to the next level. Okay, and finally this execution stops. Okay, so guys, that's how this try scope works. Okay, first it will try, and how you want to handle errors you can specify under the error handling part, under the error handling section of this try scope, like this. So based on the different scenarios, based on the different use cases, you can add your own error handling techniques, guys, how you want to handle errors basically. So guys, I hope you understood everything about this try scope. Okay, let's move to our next topic, which is until successful scope, guys. So guys, what is until successful scope? So guys, first we'll cover this theoretical part, this definition, then just like we did the POCs in case of try scope, we will cover the same POCs for until successful scope with the help of the use cases which I have already created in my Anypoiny Studio to get some more familiarity with the concept. Okay guys, so what is until successful scope? Okay, so guys, from the definition it is written, the until successful scope executes processors within it, okay, in order until they all succeed, okay, or the scope exhausts the maximum number of retries until successful runs synchronously, okay, in a synchronous way. If any processor within the scope fails to connect or produce a successful result, until successful retries all the processors within it, including the one that failed, okay, until all configured retries are exhausted. If a retry succeeds, the scope proceed to the next component. If the final retry doesn't succeed, until successful produces the error. So guys, that's how this until successful looks like. So guys, whatever component you will put inside it, okay, so guys, let's say that component fails calling that third party system, fetching that response from that third party system, or sending that data to a third party system. Okay guys, so in that case, this until successful, based on the maximum number of retries you have configured, it will retry again. Okay, let's say first time this request fails for some reason, okay, for some connectivity issues, let's say. So in until successful you can configure a maximum number of retries. Let's say you have configured maximum number of retries as 3. So it will try 3 times calling that third party system, calling that request. So if it succeeds in the second time, it will move to the next component. Otherwise it will retry again. But if all the retries are exhausted, in that case it will throw final error. Okay, so guys, I will show you this thing in the Anypoiny Studio with the help of use case which I have configured. Okay, and we will also understand the concept of variable propagation inside it. Okay, how variable propagation works in until successful scope, just like we saw in a try scope. Okay, so now guys, we will understand variable propagation in until successful scope. So guys, it is written, every execution of until successful scope start with the same variables and values present before the execution of the block. New variables or modifications to already existing variables while processing one element are not visible in the next execution in case there is an error. If the execution finishes correctly, the variables and payloads are propagated to the rest of the flow. So guys, what it is trying to say, let's say you have initialized one variable here as test, okay, and when you reaches this until successful scope, let's say you have updated the value of this variable to updated. Now the value of this variable is updated, okay, but let's say this request fails calling that system, calling the client. So because it fails, it will retry again. So because retry is the kind of next execution, okay, so because it's a kind of next execution, so whatever variable you have initialized previously before calling this block, you will get that variable value. You need to update that value again. It will not be visible in the next execution. Okay, so retrying means it's a kind of next execution. So let's say if it again fails in a next execution, again you will get the initial value of variable as test. Again you need to update it with the help of this set variable updated. Okay, so each execution is independent on each other. Okay, so whatever variable changes will happen in the first execution, it will not reflect those variable values in the next execution. So each execution is different in itself. So in first execution, if it fails, it will go to the next execution, it will try again. Again, if it fails, it will go to the next execution. Okay, and once it finishes all the processing, let's say if it's successful, then in the end you will get that updated value of the variable, guys. Okay, so we will understand this thing more while covering that practical use case which I have configured in my Anypoint Studio, guys. So without wasting time, let's go to the Anypoint Studio and understand this concept more clearly. Okay, so I reached my Anypoint Studio. Okay, so I will cover from some basics first. Okay, so guys, this is the until successful scope. So you can search it in the palette and drag and drop into your flow. Okay, like this. So because I have already configured it, so there is no need, I can delete it. And this is the listener I have configured, endpoint as UC4. So from the Postman I will trigger it as UC4 instead of UC1. And this is the variable, its value is test variable. Okay, I will put one more variable inside it to understand the concept of variable propagation as well. And guys, this is the request component, just like I have configured previously. It's the same one. Okay, and this is until successful scope. So I have configured max retries as 2. Okay, so if this request fails, it will retry 2 times. If all the retries are exhausted, it will throw error, guys. Okay, so I am going to cover one positive scenario first, and then I will cover one negative scenario. Okay, so in positive scenario, we'll call this flow. Okay, simply we will configure this request as 8081 because 8082 port is not there. I click on OK, I will save it. So once it reaches this request, it will call this flow like I did previously. So it will call this flow, it will fetch this payload and return to us in this flow, and finally we will log it. Okay, okay guys, so our application is already deployed, I can see. So let me trigger this flow and see how it works. Okay, so I click on send. So you can see it has successfully hit this flow. Okay, if I click on next, the value of variable is test variable. If I click on next again, now the value of that variable will be updated. Now what is the latest value? It is test variable updated, guys. So now I'm going to call that third-party client, third-party system, and fetch the response from there. Okay, so because it's a positive scenario, it will successfully fetch the response. So you can see we got the response from there, and finally we will log it, and the flow has completed, finished successfully. Okay, there is no error. So guys, this is our positive scenario. Okay, so where we saw like it called that third-party system, it updated the value of variable, but we didn't saw that value of variable after completing the scope. So let me show you. If I send again, I click next. Okay, so guys, the value of variable has been. So guys, this was the positive flow. Okay, so Now I'm going to generate one error, which is connectivity. So like I did previously, I will change the value of this port to 8082. Click OK, save it, or let it deploy. So guys, because there is no port like 8082 I have configured in this listener, so it will not able to call that system. It will not be able to call this flow or third-party system. Okay, so we will get some connectivity issues, and we will see how this until successful will work, how these max retries will work. Okay. Okay, so guys, our application has been deployed successfully. Let me trigger this flow. So the flow has been triggered. I click next. The value of variable is test variable. If I click next again, if I click next, the value of variable has been updated. Now guys, we will get error. Which error? Connectivity. Okay, we got a connectivity error. See, so we got connectivity error, but we have until successful scope configured on the top of this request component. So it will retry basically. And what is the frequency of the retry? Let's see. It is 10 seconds. So after every 10 seconds it will retry. Let's see. Let's wait for 10 seconds. Okay, so guys, you can see it is retrying. It is trying to retry. Now what is the value of variable? So guys, you can see whatever initial value of variable we have specified, that same value we have got in the next execution. So all the executions are independent on each other. Each and every execution is different. Okay, whatever value of variable you have changed in the previous execution will not be reflected in the next executions, or whatever modifications you did in the previous executions in the variables will not be reflected in the next execution. So previous execution we changed the value of this variable to test variable updated, but because it fails, so in the next execution while retrying we got the same variable value which we initialized before hitting this flow, which was test variable. Okay, so guys, that's how this variable propagation concept works in until successful. Okay, so I hope you understood this variable propagation concept, guys. If any queries you have, any doubts you have, you can email us. Okay, you can put some comments. Okay, we will try to clarify each and every doubt. Okay, so no worries. So if I click next, again it will give us connectivity issues because that port is still there. That port is still 8082, so there is no change. Okay guys, so we got connectivity issues again. Let's see what happens again. So 10 seconds again completed, so it started executing it again. Now the value of the variable is again test variable, because this is another execution. This is the third time it is trying to execute it. Click next. Value of variable has been updated. Okay, now again it will get connectivity issues, but our retry has exhausted, I think. So now we will get error because retries are exhausted. Still we are getting the connectivity issues, so now it will throw the error same. Okay, so in the Postman you can see until successful retry is exhausted, http get on resource this failed, connection refused. Okay, so guys, that's how this until successful works. If retry is exhausted, finally it will throw the error. Okay, so guys, that's how this until successful and try scope works. Okay, I have configured one more use case where you will see the combination of both these scopes, until successful as well as try scope. How we can use these both scopes in a combined manner. Okay, So I will show you in that use case. Let me minimize it. So guys, this is the one which I have configured. So this is a combination of until successful and try. Okay. So guys, what is try scope? I showed you previously. If any component fails, it will handle those errors how you want to handle it based on whatever error handling techniques you have put. Okay guys. So guys, you can see this request component I have configured. Okay. So let's say we got a bad request. So bad request in itself is a kind of a permanent error. It's not a temporary error like HTTP connectivity that can be resolved after some time. So bad request is a kind of permanent error which not need to be retried again and again. So if you put a request component directly into the until successful scope without putting the try scope, so even if you got the bad request error, it will retry, which doesn't make any sense. Okay. So because we used to do until successful in case of connectivity issues, when we don't want to do until retry it again and again for bad request kind of issues because it's a kind of permanent error. So in that case guys, we use a combination of these both scopes, try and until successful. So in try scope, let's say if we got bad request error or any other permanent errors like method not allowed, unauthorized, so in that case it will not retry. It will simply go to this owner continue and log the error and process to the next component. But guys, if we got the connectivity issues, in that case this until successful will retry connecting to that server, which makes sense because it's not a permanent error. Connectivity issues can be resolved after some time. It might be due to some kind of some temporary reasons that we got some connectivity issues, but it's not a kind of permanent issues. It can be resolved after some time. Okay. So those part we can handle with the help of this until successful. But if the error is permanent, having like bad request or method not allowed, we used to handle it in the try catch scope. So guys, based on the different scenarios or different use cases, okay, you can put your own error handling techniques. You can handle errors in whatever way you want. Okay, this is just to explain you how these things will work. Okay, so first we will cover some positive scenarios. We'll try to hit this flow, complete this flow, okay, and see how it works. So the first use case will be a positive scenario. Okay, we'll see how it works. So again we will configure it as 8081 because 8082 is not available and it's a kind of negative scenario. We'll click OK, save it. I will put some debugger points here. Okay, so my application is already deployed. So let me trigger this flow, and the listener endpoint is UC3. So I will put the same endpoint in the Postman and UC3. So let me trigger this flow. Okay, I will click send. This flow has been triggered now. If I click next guys, we got the value of variable as test variable. Okay, we go inside try scope, we go inside until successful slow scope. Now we are on the variable. If I click next, the value of variable is changed to test variable updated. It will now it will call that flow, call that third-party system to fetch some response from there. Okay, it's a kind of get request. Okay, get request. Okay, we got the response successfully. Okay, and it has completed the flow successfully. We got the logs. Okay guys. Okay guys, so now we will cover negative scenario. What we will try to do, instead of calling a get call, we will try to call a post method. Okay, instead of get call we will do post call, so that it will give us a method not allowed error. Okay, so that it will give us method not allowed error, which is a kind of permanent error. So because it's a kind of permanent error, so try catch scope will handle it. Okay, and it will go to the next flow, next component, without even retrying it, because it's not a it's a kind of permanent error. Okay, so guys, I will try to generate this method not allowed error. Okay, let me configure something. So guys, here I will configure it as get. So if we try to call this request with the help of post method, it will give us this error, method not allowed, which is a permanent error. And for permanent error, until successful will not work. Okay, because we are handling it inside the try catch scope. Okay guys, so let me configure it as post, so that it will fail. Let me save it and wait for the deployment. So our application has been deployed. Let me trigger this flow. Okay, flow has triggered. Next, 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 next. Now it will give us method not allowed error. Okay guys, you can see method not allowed, which is nothing but this one. So because we have already configured this error in this on continue, so it will go inside this on continue first. Okay, and it moves to the next component without until successful. Okay, because we didn't configured. Okay, because we have configured this method not allowed in this try catch, so that if any error occurs having this error type as method not allowed, just do on error continue, just move to the next component. After logging, just move to the next component. Okay, so it didn't executed this retry, because it was a permanent error guys, which doesn't needs to be retried. So guys, now we will see the value of variable. So the value of variable is also updated. Okay, just like we understood the concept of variable propagation previously. So if I resume it, it has completed, this flow is completed. Okay guys, so that's how it works guys, this combination of try and until successful. Now we will cover one more scenario where we will use this until successful. Now let's say we didn't got any permanent errors, we didn't got any of the errors which we have configured here in the try scope. So guys, in that case it will do until successful, it will retry, it will try to connect to that server again and again. So how we can generate that scenario? We can generate that scenario by generating connectivity issues. Okay, so how we will generate the connectivity issues? Okay, so we will generate the connectivity issues just like we did previously. We will change the value of the port to 8082, click OK, save it. So this time it will give us connectivity issues and it will do retry. Okay guys, and if all the retries are exhausted, it will throw error. Okay, so let's wait for the deployment. So the deployment has already completed. I think my computer is very fast, just joking guys. So let me trigger this flow. So if I trigger this flow, if I click next, 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 so this time we will get connectivity issues, and that connectivity error type we didn't configure in the error handling part of try scope. So it will do a retry with the help of this until successful scope. Let's see. So guys, we got connectivity issues. Now it will retry. Okay, it is trying to retry now. So let's wait for 10 seconds. Okay guys, you can see it is trying to call that service again. It is retrying it. Again we got connectivity issues. Let's see. See, now again it will try to it will again retry. Okay, so let's wait for 10 seconds. See, it is again retrying. Okay, again connectivity. I think this was the last retry. Okay, retries are exhausted. So finally it will throw the error that hey, my retries are exhausted. Connectivity is not able to establish with that server. I'm going to throw an error. So this until successful will throw an error. Okay, so that until successful retries are exhausted, guys. Last execution method. So, okay, so get on this resource failed, connectivity refused. Okay, so connection error. So guys, so that was all about this try and until successful scope. We have covered multiple use cases to make you familiar with this concept. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this session. Okay, so let us know if you have any issues, if any queries, you can comment us. Okay, you can email us. Okay, thank you guys, thanks for watching our session. See you soon. Bye.